The morning reads, I'm 22-year-old. I've been married to my wife for over a year now. She has a 5-year-old, now my stepdaughter, and we just welcomed a 3-month-old to the family. For the first month of our marriage everything was fine, until she came down with some depression which she claimed was because of the move and the new life that she wanted. We both did. I was in the military for the past couple of years, so marrying each other resulted in her moving from the central to the east coast. She couldn't wait to move, though about a month later things went south, because she says she suffers from anxiety and depression. Every day or every other day, 2 days of peacetime at a time, at most, was me coming home to her in an awful mood. It resulted in petty arguments, anger towards me and her daughter, etc. I thought for the first 3 months or so that okay, maybe she's adjusting to the move and the new life. I was incredibly patient, and during those arguments, disputes, I would talk as kindly and as calmly as I could to try to soothe her, comfort her, and make her feel loved. Looking back, it never worked. For the next year and 3 months this continued. I hope you all don't think I was coming home to argue with her. That's not remotely true. I try my best to live by a code that's honest, sincere, and simple. That means I'm not one for exaggerated claims, lies, and drama. I told my wife this the first week I met her, and she acknowledged. Granted, I'm not perfect. I'm a human too, and the mistakes I've made are accounted for and have been resolved. They were small mistakes, not big. To give more context on what ensued, here are some examples. The first few weeks when we moved in, she had terrible trust issues. No matter if I worked 17-hour days and came home exhausted, that 20-minute drive home was apparently a window for me to cheat. Moreover, mostly anything I tried to share with her she called weird, or called it weird that I liked such a thing. Things I would try to share were music videos, video games, books, art, etc. But because there was a female in what I shared with her, she called it weird. If I looked at anything with a female in it, she would visibly get upset and become short with me. I quit a few hobbies in order to not have the days get worse. It obviously made me feel awful to be called weird so early on in the relationship, simply because anything I interacted with contained a person of the opposite gender. This went on even until my transition out of the military. At 14 years old I set a goal which was to become a software developer because I started learning a programming language that young. I have no college experience, and the only professional career has been the military. I struggled with my leadership to get into a class that allowed me to learn more skills, practice for interviews, etc. I was invited to Washington State for a second interview with Microsoft for the hard work that I put in. My friends and family were ecstatic and proud because they know that's what I wanted to achieve. What was my spouse's response? She forced half a smile and silently go back to what she was doing. Not one word. What was she thinking about? There would be women where I work in the future. Days later she mentioned she also felt left behind because people her age were getting the careers they wanted. I got one semi-forced I'm proud days later. During the entire transition, and for over 300 days now, I've functioned off of 2 to 4 hours of sleep a day. My routine was this: wake up at 5, physical training, work till 6 to 8 p.m., or 9, 10, 11, or 24 hours, come home, cook dinner for the family. Wife was pregnant and bedridden for a while, so I did this explicitly. However, we usually both cook, clean the house, spend time with my daughter, and study as much as I could before my wife became subtly upset about me being on the computer instead of with her, which I always try to do so. In fact, my time on the computer was drastically reduced so that I spend time with my family, and of course to avoid the negative responses, and then endure whatever argument my wife had conjured for that night. It still baffles me we even have them. I'm overwhelmed at the thought that I have no idea where they come from. One argument lasted till 5 a.m., which means I got home, did the routine, endured the argument, and went right back to work. This cycle was repeated for months. It resulted in 2 awful sleep terror episodes. It got to the point where I searched online to see if it was normal to endure this much emotional abuse and damage. Apparently, it's not. Regardless of whether or not she suffers from anxiety or depression, I don't believe those are reasons to act nasty and cruel to me or people around her. I try to set boundaries and tell her to please quit talking to me the way she does. Her response is, no, I can do whatever I want. If you don't like it, then leave, or she gets even more pissed off. Recently it's gotten worse. Our 3-month-old had a week where she would not stop crying. Shortly after I came home and we had a discussion about it. She sends me texts every day whenever our daughter starts crying, either for food, because she's tired, etc. My wife gets angry, sometimes livid, and texts me her frustration. She loves to use the word unhappy a lot. The discussion that followed was her breaking down because she couldn't handle daily living anymore. She is not content with dealing with anxiety every day. She's refused counseling and treatment the dozens of times I suggested, and of course dealing with our daughter. She then became suicidal and didn't know what else to do. I was there for her and suggested many viable options. Daycare, babysitter, take a break from this. It was no to everything. Yesterday we had the biggest argument yet. I got home and again she was upset because she had a bad day. because our daughter prevented her from doing anything such as cleaning, studying photography, etc. Later that night she continued her usual name-calling, yelling, cussing, etc. I've tried to stay resilient for a very long time, but I feel like I've now broken. I've never seen her act like that. She came downstairs to ask if I am happy with our marriage. I answered honestly that I didn't know. That if it'll be like this every day no matter our attempts to fix things. I did try to sit her down before and fix things. Then of course I won't be 100% happy. The result for the entire night from me saying I'm not 100% happy was, nothing is good enough for you. You make me feel like crap, OP. Don't be surprised if you come home one day and I'm on the floor dead. Almost called the cops on that one to be honest because she says that often and I don't want my children around that. You broke my heart. Things will never be the same. You did a lot of damage. You don't love me. I only wanted to be heard but that didn't happen. I tried to give my family everything. My family and friends tell me often they are impressed with how I've overachieved as a husband and father. Here are solutions I suggested. Marriage counseling. She refused because she hates people. As simple as stopping ourselves in our tracks the moment an unnecessary argument is about to arise. May not have been the greatest solution but it's worth a shot. Writing down our issues instead of talking about them because our communication obviously isn't the best. Ultimately, I want what's best for our children. Our 5-year-old already cries every time she hears my wife yell. Children growing up in this environment doesn't seem healthy. I will get professional help no matter what, at least to help me cope with this bundle of emotions. But I want to know what a community of experienced individuals think is my best plan of action. I truly want to be there for her and be with her through everything and have a happy family. But what's the point if my happiness, and our children's happiness, will dwindle throughout the entire journey? I'm not sure what to do. My wife currently does not work and she is 21. She never knew what she wanted to do in life until I suggested photography. I saved up and bought her first camera and she is going through an accredited online course now. She just started actually. I will say she did appreciate me helping her get started with that. The first week she was happy, but now she's back to her usual mood especially because of our youngest. Thank you for showing me there is still hope. It stabilizes a lot of my emotions knowing that anything can happen so long as we both want it to. I have tried suggesting a psychiatrist. I have. We finally had an appointment scheduled but she canceled at last minute in order to save money. We are great financially even if I am the sole supporter of 4 and a 3-story house which is incredibly affordable. I'm careful with finances. The most I buy for myself ever is water or beef jerky. The only reason we only struggled last month and this month is because I want to save for an emergency fund. I stress savings because I learned from my parents who worked incredibly hard to support my sister and I moving and buying new furniture for some reason drained my $11,000 savings account in a month. She wanted new furniture. Now I'm attempting to build it back up. For her that means if I save money from canceling this appointment, we'll have more shopping money. I know by the way she talks. I've bought her CBD oil which has worked surprisingly well to combat her intrusive thoughts, fear of the end. But we still have those everyday situations. My aspirations were to become a software developer after the military. I just began my new career. My current goals are to learn as much as I can every day, no matter it be a skill or a new topic that I don't know about. Knowledge is important to me and I wish to learn from all experiences gained in life. It was at first, but now it's steered an entirely different direction that I do wish we can come back from. What I fear is that we won't be able to or that my happiness will never return from before, which in turn affects our children. I do plan on seeing a professional and thank you for the support. I take partial blame for choosing to marry young as well. Someone with BPD will play mind games if by chance they allow themselves treatment. How would I even begin to approach my wife, no matter how sincere, and tell her that I suggest she sees a professional not only for anxiety but for a BPD diagnosis as well? It is a challenge because something in the back of my mind tells me she would play mind games during treatment. It's a challenge also because the moment I bring that up to her, in relation to bettering our relationship, she'll fire back with becoming upset and stating that it's her fault everything is messed up, or something similar. Yesterday she acted as if the last discussion didn't even happen. She felt sad throughout the day but if anything acted just a little more outgoing and normal or happy. I'm afraid this is the BPD. Regardless, she listened to my suggestion about writing down our issues and so she came up with a template of about 12 bullets each with questions written for example, what is something you wish I would stop doing? What is something you wish I would do? Something I want you to know, etc. etc. Does having that disorder mean that the individual has no control over their actions? Does it mean that the personality masked over someone with BPD is who they are? Or do they have a definitive personality hidden under the disorder? If you don't mind me asking, could you possibly PM me more details on how you dealt with someone with the same characteristics as my wife? I'm still afraid to come home because I feel she will use that argument against me somehow. For the past several days I've been experiencing loss of motivation for everything because of the amount of negativity that she likes to express about anything. And all the time that I have to walk around eggshells. Part of me thinks this new writing down our issues plot will solve some problem. Part of me thinks it's a way for her to dig even deeper into our situation, resulting in another loop. She loves using those all-or-nothing expressions, and she seems to have a big issue with making friends. She talks about how she would never hang out with someone in person but loves to talk about things over the internet to other girls on FB long distance. She refers to them as friends, but whenever that is a discussion, she mentions she has no friends. She also likes to make me feel guilty about having friends, though I don't know how or why. I have a handful of buddies back home and some I made in the military. A handful of genuine people I consider to be family. She likes to say, "You have a lot of friends," randomly during the discussion, and other things I can't quite remember. I suffer from chronic migraines, which affects my memory. Anytime I mentioned a friend coming over, she would get visibly upset, down, depressed, short with me, etc., as if having someone over would interfere with our lives terribly. Out of the 3 times that I ever had a friend over in the past, there was always a terrible argument at the end of every day. This includes my family members coming over. She can't help but mention how she feels awkward about everyone, especially if she's alone with them. Those days also end with a random argument, which usually refers to having people over. I no longer invite people over in order to prevent situations like that. She has apologized on paper in the past before about some situations and actions. She did this in a bulk apology for everything kind of way. She did this once more just yesterday on paper as well. How she is sorry if she caused pain, bad memories, sadness, etc., and that she is trying really hard to change. She said this before. What I've noticed is that after every bulk apology, her actions continue as if she isn't aware and damage is still done. Out of the past year and some months, this has been done 3 times now. I'm not sure how to feel about an apology, meaning I'm not sure if it is sincere, though it sounds like it. Simply because I feel like we are in a loop and something tells me things still won't change. Wanted to be with her. I wanted to show her that not all men are like those she used to know, and that I could be there to support her out of her struggle with anxiety. I thought I could be that person to help fix her as well. If you ask me, I really don't know why I developed boundaries only recently, because for this entire time they were definitely absent. I will say I am glad now that I did so, because I want to see where and how far I can go with this. Thank you both very much for the invaluable advice and information that you were able to provide. A few months later, it's been 4 days and my wife continued to spew anger, hate, and rage at me for something I didn't do. As in, I didn't say yes to something she wanted. Normally these things blow over after one night of no sleep. After almost 2 years of marriage, this is different. She just said herself that she fears for our marriage now. My wife had wanted a 3rd child for maybe 4 months now. We have a 6-month-old plus my stepdaughter who is 6 years old. I'm 22, my wife is a year younger. Having our recent was simple because I was in the military. I'm out now with a blooming career, solid finances, bills not a burden, etc., with the occasional medical bills steadily being taken care of. There are several reasons why my wife wants a child now or never. Waiting 2 to 3 years is too long for her. Honestly, she's close to giving up from what she just told me. 1. She wants to pursue a new career in photography. If we wait any longer, it'd prolong that, and she wouldn't want to start just to put it on hold for kids, even though she desperately wanted kids. I've suggested switching roles. I work remote from home and stay at home because I am well aware of the idea that someone has to stay home with the kids, especially if my wife refuses daycare or a babysitter. 2. She wants to travel to other countries. She wants to get children over with early in order to save soon and travel. 3. Her hair is falling out. She doesn't want it to grow back just for it to potentially fall out again after another baby. 4. She wants anxiety treatment, but not if she'd have to put it on hold once pregnant. 5. Wants to get children out of the way early to allow her to do the things she wants. My issue with trying again so soon, finances. I've explained to her and have drawn out our financial situation. She saw the numbers on the paper essentially go negative. This was explained months ago. To this day she does not understand. She says, we'll always have medical bills. With our situation now, bills are manageable and my credit is in good standing. We're able to get by pretty well for a family of 4 renting a house. She assumes this means we're able to get by pretty good for a family of 5 renting a house, all expenses included. Recently she explained to her mother her situation. Her parents, being the kind and amazing individuals they are, see it both ways. They like that I am wanting to be best prepared for something like this, but they understand my wife wants to do things in life. Again, I suggest switching roles, as I don't mind the fact that I must sacrifice in order to have a family, like stay home with the kids. The solution her mother gave her was that she'd help with money, essentially paying off everything I am responsible for. With much respect and gratitude, I couldn't possibly. Having been raised by my parents, whom I've seen work harder than anyone else in life, raising my sister and I all on their own from scratch, I have never been the type to accept from others, only in inevitable situations such as gift giving. My decision has sparked a fire in my wife. She's completely changed. She's been upset and angry with me ever since. She said things I've never heard her say. Screw you, I'm glad I'm never having kids with you again. I'm getting my tubes tied because we're never having any more children. More cussing, degrading, belittling, nasty, cruel comments ensued. It made me feel as though I should feel guilty for who I am as a person. This kind of walking on eggshells triggered a 2-day-long migraine which I endured every night until 1 a.m. to listen to my wife repeat herself and deteriorate my mind some more. We figured things would pass. Today she's proven to feel different about me. She usually wants me to get home early all the time and is happy. Today she didn't care. Those were her literal words. She doesn't want to be around me. She doesn't care if I got home. She doesn't want to speak to me. She doesn't see me as the same person. All the while she thinks I don't care or support her views. Keep in mind I've given her everything she's asked in life up to this point. All of that is apparently garbage because I simply cannot have others pay for my child. I've been independent since 18. This is no pride that I speak of. We are adults and we can take care of ourselves as adults. I've been the sole provider and have given us a smooth transition from the military to the civilian sector. This means that we'll be more than ready to provide for a third in a couple of years with a higher salary, different jobs perhaps. But that'd be too late for her. Age 24 plus is too late for everything from her perspective. She stands by it. This might all seem like a bicker to the audience. But since I've been with my wife, my emotional and mental well-being has been affected by her behavior. My character has changed since we first met. Not in the good way that one would expect. I'm happy with my children and I love them to death. My wife has caused me to feel somewhat numb at this point. I'm not sure what to think or say in response to her anymore. I feel like a drone most of the days. I've accomplished much professionally since our marriage, but I have never received the opportunity to cherish it or feel truly happy about it because of her reactions to my career. Counseling is out the window for us as a couple. It's been brought up by me and shot down by her every time. We almost went through with it but ended up agreeing we should deal with her anxiety treatment first, which is blocked by her wanting a third child. Something odd just happened. Another argument was going on when I decided to tell her that she's being emotionally abusive, because she was. With a pissed-off tone, she asked, "Really? I'll just leave then." She began to pack a bag while I took care of our smallest, trying to rock her. A few things were said regarding that, mostly how am I being abusive? Why are we together? Then reality hit her and she started sobbing again like the last big argument. She bluffed and tried to play mind games while asking me for my ring. I gave it to her obviously because I'm sick of arguing. That was a test to see how I reacted. This led to a serious talk in the living room. She finally realized it and let me speak. She listened to everything I said and endlessly apologized for all the damage she caused. This is the first time she's ever listened to me talk about what I feel. But that's not enough, and it's too damn bad that it took this wake-up call for her to do that. She's apologized before on paper for being a lot to deal with. Apparently now that she realizes she's been abusive, that was her apologizing for it. Even though that didn't stop her from continuing those actions, and I let her know. I told her I was going to seek counseling for myself before I continue any of that discussion. She promised to change after listening to everything and now wants a second chance pretty much. She fears that my counselor will tell me to leave. She kept nagging and asking if that would happen. I lied and said no. My first ever lie to her. If I didn't, I'd have to deal with her sobbing all night and tomorrow during the day, and it'd be more of a mess. Regardless, I'm in control now. She agreed to marriage counseling and she suggested talking with her parents either together or just me alone. She mentioned my parents as well. She seems very convincing in fixing all of this, but I don't truly believe it. I want to use my time with my counselor to figure something out about divorcing. I feel a bit stronger in doing so, although I am beginning to feel bad now that she 100% wants to better and fix everything. A part of me feels this is manipulative behavior. She keeps coming to me crying and crying, saying she doesn't want to be alone and that she misses me. She keeps saying she's so scared and afraid to lose me and she feels alone. She's having a major breakdown right now, and if we keep this up all day, I honestly don't know how she's going to handle herself by the end of the day. I have to keep breaking away because I don't feel like talking at this moment and tell her it's not okay to keep having these small discussions. It's not helping any. She's been researching this stuff all day. She has several tabs open on the computer about being an abuser. Does it change anything? She's well aware of who she is now. I talked to a therapist who confirmed by what they've read from my journal that my spouse is likely to have a personality disorder. They also agreed with much of I had thought of so far. I've decided that I will file for divorce and give her the news this weekend. That way I am around at home to handle her reaction rather than at work. I now have some decisions to make about planning for potentially flying her home while this is happening, custody of our 6-month-old, and potentially seeking a new job back home in the future to be near my stepdaughter depending on what happens. I am grateful to have opened up for once. I've always preferred to handle things myself, although this time I felt I needed outside help, especially because there are children involved. Writing to this community has helped clear my head and gather my thoughts. I thank you all for your time. This situation is difficult for everybody. However, I am confident that our future looks much brighter with more time to focus on the children. A few months later, I was going through something ugly with my wife and mustered up the courage to declare to her that she was being emotionally abusive. She took a week to research online about being abusive and purchased 3 books that I'm sure she only read 2 pages of each. One of them was marriage counseling for us, to which I responded that I was not ready and needed more time to think and cope with the pain. On the back of that same book, she read out loud, "If you are in an abusive relationship, this book is not for you." I did my research online and prepared the best way that I could, knowing her. The only way for me to get 50/50 custody of our children in order to co-parent like adults, have the divorce be mutual, property to be agreed upon, which isn't much, and take the least painful, least expensive route was to do what I did. She wanted the same thing. I asked her about have the divorce be mutual in writing, as well as joint custody of the children and split the property down the middle. She agreed. I brought up the divorce to her several weeks ago on a Friday evening. I told her things will most likely not be the same, and I've decided to take responsibility to look after the health and development of our children as well as my own health. Upon telling her that, for the next 2 hours she gave me a lecture about how terrible her life has been since we've been married because of anxiety, depression, pregnancy, etc. That entire weekend was ugly and nasty. That same day she called her mom and told her to buy a plane ticket for the following Sunday to take the kids back home. Unfortunately, there was no stopping her. Regarding the divorce, if I had shown any sort of resistance, such as hinting for sole custody, or if I played on the offensive, she would have refused to sign and would 100% have fought me for sole custody of our daughter. Since then, she's blown up every single one of her social media accounts to blame every bit of this on me and turn everyone back home against me. That includes our 6-year-old. Not including those who know me personally, they were not fooled by her sudden drastic claims. Whenever I have to discuss an important issue with her, I do so through text messages. I still manage to receive responses that hold a seemingly disgusting attitude as inferred by how they are written. In addition to every other response say, "A real man doesn't do this. A real husband doesn't do this. They don't break promises or hurt me or abandon the kids. It's not my fault you're depressed. It's not my fault you're alone. It's not my fault you chose this. It's not my fault you let us get on a plane and leave. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. You never took my feelings or the kids' feelings into account during all this. I don't trust you, and I'm not obliged to. You were abusive. Everyone I talk to says this is normal and what every marriage goes through." 1. She spent so much time painting me black to hundreds of people that she convinced herself I was the abusive one, and that she was never abusive, and she doesn't blame herself for her actions. She purchased books online on her own so that she could improve her abusive behavior, yet she now firmly denies it and instead says I was abusive. 2. If that's what a normal marriage is, count me and the children out. I don't believe that is a healthy relationship, and you would be hard-pressed to convince me otherwise. Her mother told me to watch how I use the word abuse because she was in an abusive relationship for over a decade. She dismissed my concerns as, essentially, every couple goes through it. I explained to my spouse that one day I took the time to research child growth development in abusive relationships after talking with my therapist about it. I said this sincere and neutral in response to one of her messages. Her response, "That's ridiculous." We are at the point now where when I text her to talk with my oldest daughter, my stepdaughter, her response is, "She doesn't want to talk to you. She's angry and upset. I've already told you this. It's not my fault. You chose this. You broke promises." Before she took the kids and left, she would whisper things to our 6-year-old about the situation that a child should not be told. Our daughter would then come up to me asking me to fix things because mommy is sad and I need to keep a promise. It was painful hearing that and knowing I'm not able and should not tell her the details. I would always respond that she should not worry about any of this at her age. She's too young, but one day I'll tell her. Until then we're still a family. I'm still her dad and mom is still her mom and we still love her. Next Friday I'm driving 21 HRS to drop off her vehicle because her mother mentioned it would help. Since my spouse makes decisions on her own and I know there's no way she would come back, the most I can do is to make sure my daughters have what they need because of the sudden move. I would like to see them both that weekend because my sister is also coming down from a long way to have her kids spend time with mine. During any barrage of text messages written with her emotions, I'm not able to express how or what I feel because she genuinely does not seem to care. She'll respond immediately with "That's your fault." As in, because I decided a divorce was best for our situation. That caused her to decide to leave and would only stay if I had called off the divorce. I now have to spend time seeing the girls at her parents' house while she's not there, but with her parents who have listened to a month's worth of false claims and perhaps stand by their daughter's malignant and vindictive actions, though they may not realize it. I really hate to say it, but it just might be very uncomfortable. I don't think anyone would feel comfortable in a situation where the people around them only know misconstrued details about their situation, but they would never attempt to discuss the details to clarify so as to remain respectful. This is the most difficult thing I've ever had to go through. It hasn't even been a month yet, and this is going to be longer than 12 months. I had expected more mature behavior on my wife's part. I wish dearly that we could co-parent together as mature adults and make decisions that are in the best interest of our daughter. She responded with 100% none of this is her fault. She was never abusive. She can't wait for me to get into a relationship and have this happen all over again. I apparently contradict myself because nothing makes sense. Aka, her potential BPD, absolutely refuses to believe what's real over her fantasy. I know there is no resistance from her side when it comes to agreeing to joint custody for our newborn. At last, I hope there isn't any resistance. Although the more time passes and the worse her behavior gets, the more I think about asking for more than 50% so that our daughter can primarily live with me yet retain a healthy relationship with her mother with no risk of being exposed to her behavior. Update: my spouse and I have been separated for 2 months. Since then, I've sent just under $4,000, with about $1,000 more if we include the credit card debt I've paid off, and will continue to send approximately $840 a month to support my stepdaughter and my newborn. She took them with her across the country. And yes, after consulting with an attorney, I am aware I'm not obligated to send a dime. I do so to make sure the children are not going without and that I fulfill my half of the responsibility to financially support them as their father. I believe she's only spent approximately $500 from the $4,000 that I've given her. All other payments for necessities have been through my credit card. The last time that I went to visit, my sister and I decided to throw a birthday party for both her son and my newborn. They're just 2 months apart, so we plan to have them both celebrate their first birthday party together, mainly because my sister would be gone for several months, about a week after, which means she would not have been able to witness my daughter's first birthday. The party was great. Her and I split the costs of the decorations, food, etc. We did so know that neither of us would have much of anything left for the rest of the month for our own sustenance and basic needs. This was because of my situation and her being a single mother of 2 still in the military. It goes without saying that lack of money or food has never bothered us, and why would it ever when we were doing this for our children? That said, we're still recovering with ramen and eggs for 2 meals a day. Could be worse, right? The current situation is I informed my wife that I've discontinued the credit card she was authorized to use because I'm finally in a position to send the bulk amount each month. Same situation, with the only difference being her semi-high use of the credit card, which could potentially damage credit history. I'd like to keep the use low and payment steady so that I remain financially stable to provide for the children in the future with no issues. Upon being informed, my wife responded with wanting me to send more money in order to pay for things for the party she is throwing our daughter in a month or so. Things such as her cake, an inflatable castle, plates, napkins, etc. Normally this would not be a problem and I would love to participate, except there are 2 issues. I currently retain about $200 a month as spending power for food or emergency. I believe my situation will get better around September because I am keeping an expense report of all my bills and transaction, but it looks like it'll stay this way longer than September. The second issue being, she sent me a message before the party my sister and I threw for our kids a few weeks back. The message said that she would not pay for any decor or anything else for the party because she would rather save the money I've sent her to pay for the party she will throw in the near future. I did not respond because I never asked her for money. I've never asked anyone for money. However, this is not the first time she's mentioned this. She said the same, including not wanting to spend the child support she receives for her first daughter, and wanting to save it all because she doesn't have a source of income, but I do. I'm not experienced in this situation, and of course I genuinely would like to keep things amicable no matter how incapable my wife is of doing so. Am I doing the right thing financially? I've calculated the initial $840 a month for the cost of a newborn and added $200 extra for anything both the kids need as well as the rest for health insurance premiums. My wife still expects me to send extra for the upcoming party, and if I don't, I'm more than certain she will turn around to her friends and family to again tell them how evil and non-supportive I am because I won't send money, and will threaten. She's documenting everything. My comment: I think you may need a new lawyer. Taking children out of state is an issue. Sending that much can be setting you up for a divorce settlement that is unfair to you. Why have you not legally separated? The longer this goes on, the stronger her argument for keeping things as they are, out of state, across the country, sending more than you afford. Send less.